So, how did Meghan and Harry meet? It depends when you ask her. In 2017, she claimed she didn't know much about him. In 2021, she doubled down, said she never even Googled him. And by 2022, she is admitting to checking out his Instagram feed. In this video, we're going to break down three completely different versions of how their love story allegedly began, all straight from Meghan's mouth. This isn't just bad memory, this is narrative control because when someone keeps changing their origin story, especially when the stakes are high, it's not about forgetting, it's about reframing. Let's get into it, but before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe.
I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice? Because if he wasn't kind, it didn't seem like it would make sense.
What I notice as she's telling this story is that her voice is very soft. She's trying to look humble, she's showcasing humility, and Harry is buying everything. Just look at his face.
I had one question. I said, well, is he nice? Because if he wasn't kind, it didn't seem like it would make sense.
This clip is directly from their engagement interview, November of 2017. And what I see is that she wants the audience to who values character over clout. It's simple, it's sweet, and it immediately signals I'm not after fame or status. I just want a good man. In fact, I didn't even know what he was or who he was. All I cared about was, is he kind? This line isn't just meant to be romantic, it's strategic image crafting. She's framing herself as morally superior by saying she only cared if he was kind. She elevates herself above the idea of social climbing or being impressed by royalty. She knew that this question was going to be asked, so believe me, she practiced her response. Every single word is vetted and it's designed to endear her both to skeptics and to fans. And it raises eyebrows because if you're about to date one of the most famous men on earth and the only thing you ask is he kind? You're either being willfully performative or you're lying by omission to shape the narrative. Let's get into the next clip.
Well, I didn't do any research
You
about what
didn't
that
do
would
any
mean.
research.
No. I've never looked up my husband online.
So this clip is from the Oprah interview 2021, and she is doubling down on that. I had no idea who he was. I didn't do any research about what that would mean. I've never looked up my husband online. I was innocent. I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't chase status and I didn't Google the prince because I fell in love with the man and not the title. This is where her narrative goes from romantic to implausible. It's unbelievable ignorance. Never looked up one of the most famous people on the planet in the age of smartphones? Come on. At this point in 2021, Megxit had already happened. Meghan's positioning shifts from fairy tale romance to misled victim. So this line serves a new goal. I was naive, not calculating. It implies helplessness. She's subtly setting up this happened to me storyline, like she was swept into something too big, too traditional, too cruel, and had no way of preparing for it. It's feeding her martyr complex. This line didn't age well, not just because it contradicts her later Netflix comments, but because it asks us to believe that a grown woman in Hollywood, who'd already been married once allegedly, met a prince and never as much as ran a Google search. And yet she had enough instinct to ask her friend if he was kind. Let's get into the third version.
And I said, who is it? And she said, it's Prince Has. And I said, who's that? I asked if I could see his. So that's the thing. When people say, did you Google him? No. But that's your homework. You're like, look, let me see what they're about in their feed.
Okay, this last one is from the 2022 Netflix mockumentary, and I think this is where the whole fairy tale storyline starts to unravel. She's trying to sound relatable and modern, like I didn't stalk him, I just checked his Insta. This is supposed to feel casual, breezy, like something any millennial woman would do. She's now trying to walk back that extreme, naive front she put on during the Oprah interview because it's no longer believable. Instead of owning up to Googling him, she pivots to the more culturally acceptable, I checked his feed. This is called rationalization and soft admission. She did look him up. She just didn't want to call it research. She reframes it as something fun and light and not calculating. This version directly contradicts the Oprah claim of I never looked him up online. Instagram is online. Checking a feed is doing research. And the whole that's your homework joke is a subtle wink that she knows it was research. She's just trying to downplay it now. This is a major narrative pivot, and it reveals the entire story has been massaged depending on the public mood. So by 2022, Meghan finally admits she did check him out, just not in a way she calls research. Instead, she's rebranding it as scrolling his feed. But make no mistake, this is damage control because by now the audience wasn't buying this I never Googled him fairy tale. So she changed the story again. And once you start shifting your origin story, you're not telling a memory, you're managing a brand. Now, we have heard many, many versions of how they met, but I wanted to piece these three together because these are directly coming from Meghan's mouth. I'm interested to know in what you all think about this. Please drop it in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Are there any other versions that Meghan is on camera talking about that I might have missed? Let me know. I recently dropped my first merch. You can find that under the store shelf under this video, so feel free to check it out. I appreciate it so much. If you want a 10% off code, you can go check out my Patreon. The link to all my socials are in the description of this video. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people who are in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether that's emotional, physical, or hard to name. Their information is here on the screen should you need to contact them, and a link to donate is in the description of this video. Every little bit helps and it means a lot. I want to thank you so much for listening. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. I can't wait to read your comments and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye, everybody.
I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice? Because if he wasn't kind, it didn't seem like it would make sense. And
Well, I didn't do any research about what that would mean.
Research?
No. I've never looked up my husband online.
And I said, who is it? And she said, it's Prince Has. And I said, who's that? I asked if I could see his. So that's the thing. When people say, did you Google him? No. But that's your homework. You're like, look, let me see what they're about in their feed.
I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice? Because if he wasn't kind, it didn't seem like it would make sense. And
Well, I didn't do any research about what that would mean.
Research?
No. I've never looked up my husband online.
And I said, who is it? And she said, it's Prince Has. And I said, who's that? I asked if I could see his. So that's the thing. When people say, did you Google him? No. But that's your homework. You're like, look, let me see what they're about in their feed.